What's up? I'm Michael from Brooklyn Pasta Lab. This week we made pasta for over 85 restaurants in New York City. And in this video, I'm going to be talking about the difference between hand-rolled pastas and fresh extruded pastas and what the pros, cons, all that sort of stuff is between the two. So we'll start with extruded pastas. So extruded pastas are made with a pasta extruder, and typically you mix the dough in a hopper, and then it is forced through an auger into a channel and then pushed out of a pasta die, typically made from bronze. And that's how you get your shape. Let's just say spaghetti. Just gets forced through the die, and typically it's a dry dough, around, or relatively dry, around 30%, 29, 28% hydration. And hand-rolled pasta, what I'm talking about today, is pasta made with a mattarello, which is a typical way that they make it in Bologna in Italy. And that pasta is very high hydration, actually double the amount of hydration, and typically made with eggs and rolled out with the long rolling pin called a mattarello, and that's rolled on a wooden surface typically. And we'll start with, what is the hydration for each and why does it matter? So for extruded pastas, you want a drier dough, around 30%, 28%, 29, depends on the shape and sort of like how it's extruding. Also depends where you are, humidity in the room, all that stuff. But I like to start 30 and then adjust from there. And basically mix the dough, force through the auger, and then pushes out of the die. And this dough makes a very chewy and rough surface texture pasta. And what that does is it allows the sauce to adhere to the pasta really, really nicely. You'll cook your pasta in the water, salted boiling water, and then strain it, transfer it to the pan with the sauce, let's just say bolognese, and then you really want to cook it together with the sauce for another couple minutes. And since the pasta has this rough texture on the outside, I'd sort of like to think of it sort of like a sponge. If you just see a sponge, it kind of has like this porous little pockets basically, and those will absorb the sauce like crazy. It's crazy when you compare it to even like a dried pasta, which we won't go into right now. But basically you just get this really nice, incredible chew from the low hydration and the semolina flour. And when you cook it with the pasta, you can get this really, really luscious, creamy sort of texture for the final dish. And it makes a really, really nice pasta dish. And then typically I just like to say that it's like more dense than hand-rolled pasta, or hand-rolled pasta is lighter or less dense than extruded pastas. That being said, when you make hand-rolled pasta with the mattarello, you're typically using a higher hydration dough that's around 60, 64, 65% hydration, made with egg. That's how they classically do it, and it gives that nice eggy, rich flavor. And when you make a really high hydration dough, the dough is pretty crazy, but like the dough gets all these air pockets inside from kneading it and the high hydration. And when you roll it out with the mattarello, you're using light pressure. It's not pressure like like you're forcing it through a roller or pushing out of a pasta die. It's super light, like it's your hands pressing down and rolling. So the pressure is really light, and you roll it out slowly, adding some flour as you roll it out. You do get some of this cracking on the surface. I like to call it cracking. Sort of like if you think of a turtle shell, this like little wavy pockets, little craters. That's what you kind of get on the surface. And as you roll it out, you don't really disrupt those air pockets much. You kind of like distribute them, and it's really hard to like imagine, but trust me, once you learn how to do it and you know, roll it out, you can really see these air pockets like throughout the sheet of the pasta. And it's pretty crazy. Once you, let's say you cut tagliatelle, once you cook it, you will see these little pockets of air in the actual like strand of pasta after you cook it. And that, all of that just creates a lighter pasta. One, because it has these little air pockets, it's not as like dense, and two, because it's a higher hydration dough. It's a bit softer than a extruded pasta, a dry extruded pasta. So yeah, that being said, you'll get with a final dish, you can still cook it in the boiling water and then cook it with the sauce, and you'll just get a really luscious, light textured pasta. Texture meaning like the chew, and it'll feel a little delicate, but not in a bad way at all. They're just two different styles of pasta. There's not one that's better than the other, in my opinion. I've learned how to do both extensively. I learned how to do it in Italy, and then I also used to make fresh pasta, selling it to people, and all rolled by hand, and then switched to extruders. And I think they just both have their place. And the pasta extruder can make a lot of pasta at once. Obviously, if you're rolling pasta by hand, it's a little bit more difficult, but you can do it. And basically, I think it just comes down to preference and what you are, you know, using it for. Whether you're a small restaurant, you can roll by hand, and that'll be like your thing. Um, or if you're a large restaurant that needs pasta that, you know, is fresh and cooks quickly, has a really nice chew. Uh, Also, depending on the dish, but typically a large restaurant's hard to implement a hand rolled pasta program. So yeah, it's really just preference. And sometimes you'll see a lot of people talk about, you know, hand rolled pasta is better than extruded. A lot of times the people that roll out hand rolled pastas never have used a pasta extruder. So, you know, you don't know until you actually do it. So, and that's what I've learned over almost 10 years now, just making fresh pasta every week. And yeah, they just have their own place. So that's all I got in this video today. If you want to learn more, or, you know, be around other pasta makers online, we have a pasta community. The link is in the description, and I'd love for you to check it out. And we'll see you in the next video.